All right, I'd like to invite a speaker from each panel to get up so that we can start the Q&A. I'm not going to start with a question. I'm just going to start with a comment by just saying thank you. Thank you for all these initiatives. All we see on social media and on media are the problems with domestic worker, with the xenophobic campaigns against refugees, Syrian or otherwise, or domestic workers. And seeing you all tackle these problems head on, these very difficult problems, is very inspiring. So thank you very much for this. I'd like to open the floor for questions. Please go ahead. Any questions for our... Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to ask a question to the team that presented the first topic. So like the migrant working system is big in Lebanon and big enough to even be observed in AUB. So I've seen a lot of presentations, a lot of like panel discussions within AUB, even where like AUB outsources its brightest students to go make a presentation about the system and come up with solutions. For example, there was the business case. It was not a business case competition per se, but it was something similar to that. And AUB's team was like second. It was a great presentation they gave about the same system of migrant workers. So one thing I do know is that some of these people who participate in these discussions do have migrant workers in their house. And it's also a very big thing, of course, amongst the high class bracket of Lebanon. And of course, AUB has a lot of high earning families. So they do have a lot of migrant workers. So how do you kind of negotiate that dilemma of AUB fighting against this, but also having a lot, and I mean a lot of people I've met who just have migrant workers here. And we cannot just say that they all treat them well. Like that probability is very poor. So how do we negotiate that as AUB, as opposed to kind of working at the very end result of the problem? How can we like deal with the core that's coming from the house, from within the same house? That's my question. How does AUB plan to work with the same people who they're trying to kind of mitigate their negative effects for?
Yeah, so thank you for your question. So our project aims to advocate and help migrant domestic workers advocate for their right. As you mentioned, how can we help them when it comes to different income levels? Well, we always see, and as our moderator said, that we only see cases either on television or on social media. So what better way for us than to let them speak on social media about what's happening to them? So as you mentioned, there are a lot of segregation between income levels and classes. So here comes our project when it helps them, the migrant domestic workers, advocate for their right and talk about what's happening to them. While we try to equip them with social media advocacy tools, like using Instagram, using Facebook, and all of social media, we help them raise their voice and talk about what's happening, because change has to come from within. It cannot come from the outside. We as citizens have to help them, and also they have to help themselves by advocating and telling what's happening. So for example, we cannot generalize that all poor income class families are abusing migrant domestic workers. But if they are, and nobody's seeing them, the migrant domestic worker can advocate for themselves using social media skills that we taught them. I hope this answers your question.
Can I also add to what he said? So in terms of what you mentioned about having AUB students on campus who also have domestic workers in their homes, and yes, you might say, well, I pay our migrant domestic worker a lot of money. Yes, so take good care of them. But the biggest problem in the issue of migrant domestic workers, as we mentioned, is the kafala system. So you might give the migrant domestic worker in your house a lot of money, yes, but how did you get her in your house? You use the kafala system, a broken system that is enslaving 50 to the one person that you're helping. So I would say the best thing that AUB can help is to try bring more stories about migrant domestic workers to campus so that students understand what's happening outside their homes. And by doing this, you can stop acquiring migrant domestic workers through the kafala system and use a different route. If there are no clients for the kafala system, the system will break down. But the problem is that there are continuous clients that are continuously hiring, which is just building the monster or the machine, which is the result of the death of a lot of women in this country or in the Middle East. I feel that that's the